Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about something that might sound strange at first, but it's actually fascinating. Can your gut really affect your mood? You know that feeling when you're nervous and your stomach feels like it's doing somersaults? Or when you're stressed and suddenly you lose your appetite? That's not just a coincidence. There is actually a deep, scientifically proven connection between our gut and our brain. And it's way more powerful than most people realize. Let me start with something mind-blowing. Your gut has its own nervous system. Scientists call it the enteric nervous system, and it contains around 100 million neurons. That's more neurons than in your spinal cord. This is why some researchers call it our second brain. But here's the really interesting part. This second brain doesn't just control digestion. It's in constant communication with the brain in your head, sending signals back and forth through what's called the gut-brain axis. Now, I want you to think about the trillions of bacteria living in your digestive system. Yes, trillions. These microorganisms aren't just sitting there doing nothing. They're incredibly active, and they have a direct impact on how we feel emotionally. These gut bacteria produce neurotransmitters, the same chemicals that regulate our mood. In fact, about 90% of your body's serotonin, which is often called the happy hormone, is produced in your gut, not in your brain. When I first learned this, it completely changed how I thought about mental health. We've always been told that depression and anxiety are purely brain disorders. But research is showing us that the state of our gut microbiome can significantly influence these conditions. Studies have found that people with depression and anxiety often have different gut bacteria compositions compared to people without these conditions. Let me give you a real-world example. Researchers did an experiment where they took gut bacteria from depressed patients and transferred them into mice that had been raised in sterile conditions without any gut bacteria. Those mice started showing signs of depression-like behavior. The same experiment was done with bacteria from healthy people, and those mice remained behaviorally normal. This tells us that the bacteria themselves can influence mood and behavior. The communication between your gut and brain happens through multiple pathways. There's the vagus nerve, which is like a superhighway of information running from your gut to your brain. There are also immune system signals and those neurotransmitters I mentioned earlier. When your gut bacteria are healthy and balanced, they send positive signals. But when they're out of balance, which we call dysbiosis, they can send signals that promote inflammation and negatively affect your mood. Think about what happens when you eat a heavy, processed meal versus a nutritious, balanced one. After the processed meal, you might feel sluggish, foggy, maybe even a bit irritable. After the healthy meal, you probably feel more energized and clear-headed. That's your gut bacteria responding to what you're feeding them and, in turn, influencing your brain function. Stress creates a vicious cycle with gut health. When you're stressed, your brain sends signals that can change the composition of your gut bacteria and increase gut permeability, which some people call leaky gut. This allows inflammatory substances to enter your bloodstream, which can affect brain function and mood. And when your mood is affected, you might make poor food choices or experience more stress, continuing the cycle. But here's the empowering part. We can actually influence this system through our choices. The food we eat directly feeds our gut bacteria. When we eat a diverse diet rich in fiber, fermented foods and whole foods, we're feeding the beneficial bacteria that support good mental health. When we eat a lot of processed foods, sugar, and artificial additives, we're feeding bacteria that can promote inflammation and negatively impact our mood. This doesn't mean that eating yogurt will cure clinical depression. Mental health is complex, and the gut is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. But it's a piece we have some control over, and that's valuable. The research in this field is still evolving, and scientists are discovering new connections all the time. What really strikes me about this research is how it reminds us that we're not just brains walking around in bodies. We're integrated systems where everything is connected. Your gut health affects your brain affects your gut. And both are influenced by what you eat, how much you sleep, your stress levels, and countless other factors. So the next time someone tells you to trust your gut feeling or talks about having butterflies in their stomach, remember that there's real science behind these expressions. Your gut is literally communicating with your brain, influencing your emotions, your decisions, and your overall mental state. And by taking care of your gut health through nutrition, stress management, and lifestyle choices, you're also taking care of your mental health. This connection between our gut and mood isn't just interesting science. It's a reminder that taking care of ourselves means considering our whole body, not just isolated parts. The gut-brain axis is one of the most exciting areas of research in both neuroscience and gastroenterology, and it's opening up new possibilities for understanding and supporting mental health in ways we never imagined before.